Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I hope you got some rest since I saw you last. Yesterday's election results are about to break the record set in 2018 for turnout in a midterm election. And I'm really excited about that. Yesterday and throughout this election cycle, more than 4.3 million Michiganders cast ballots in this election, and 1.8 million did so by absentee ballot. And already, the vast majority of unofficial results are available. I'm confident that as we go through the process, when the unofficial results are finalized, they will reflect that this election was the highest turnout midterm election in Michigan's history. Thousands of Republican, Democrat, and independent election clerks and workers securely checked and counted ballots all through the day and night yesterday to provide Michigan voters with their unofficial election results far more quickly than we'd anticipated, largely because the process was smooth, transparent, and absent of any significant or disruptions. This is a great mark of the success of this election and the tremendous work of election officials and election workers in communities all across the state. But it's not the only mark of our success. One of the most significant markers of any successful smooth election is when the losing candidate graciously concedes defeat. Several candidates who came up short in yesterday's elections have now done so. And I want to emphasize how the fact that we're seeing candidates who previously denied the accurate results of the 2020 election now graciously conceding defeat in their own high-profile races underscores that we've truly succeeded in running a smooth and successful election. And in the days ahead, clerks will now dedicate themselves to canvassing their elections to confirm the accuracy of the results before certification, demonstrating again their commitment to the integrity of Michigan elections and our democracy. The law requires partisan boards of county canvassers to now complete their work and certify election results by November 22nd, and then the bipartisan Board of State Canvassers has a responsibility to do the same by November 28th. If elections require or if candidates request recounts, those occur after the canvasses are complete and the election is certified. My office is going to release a short video today that explains the process so that all voters can see how the canvass process works and where we go from here. And also that this video confirms canvasses are one of the many checks within Michigan's elections that bolster the integrity and security of the process. They're also capped by bipartisan certification, and I am committed to seeing this process through to the certification on behalf of every Michigan voter. After the canvass and any recounts are complete, we'll also conduct thorough, multiple, bipartisan post-election audits to again affirm even more with transparency the best practices that we have in place and ensure that we can affirm them for future elections, as well as affirming voters' well-placed faith in our democracy. Following a record-breaking day like yesterday, I want every voter to know that their vote was counted fairly and that the results of the election are indeed an accurate reflection of the will of the voters. Because every voter, election worker, and clerk made Michigan history yesterday, and in doing so, they again strengthened our democracy. So thank you again for being here today. I'm happy to take a few questions. We do. We've been tracking those, and if they're not already on our website, Jake from my team can follow up with specific numbers of absentee ballots requested and returned, turnout, in-person numbers, and everything else.
Now, I know, Jake, before leading up, was there, you say the expectation was about 50% was going to be absentee and in-person. We saw a bigger swell of in-person voting. Do you feel there was a specific reason for that, or is that maybe a trend we'll see going forward?
Well, it's important to note when we had our high water mark of absentee voting, it was in the midst of a pandemic in 2020. So what we're seeing perhaps is that we're moving towards a more normal ratio where just about half or just under half, in this case about 1.8 million of the 4.3 million citizens who participated voted absentee. That may ebb and flow in the years ahead depending on different factors, and the bottom line is we're ready for whatever the ratio may be, and it will continue to unfold in the years ahead. But that said, the fact that so many people did show up to vote in person, that when they did, they encountered a smooth process, a serene process, one in which they their ability to vote was protected by all involved is really, again, a mark of our success. And I think and hope that the large number of people who did participate in person and their decision to do so also reflects the faith they have in the system. Sure, go for it.
What exactly are the thresholds for an automatic recount for certain races? And then are you aware of any that are going to be closed once we get through the campaign?
Yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. We'll sift through and Jake can get you the specifics on the triggers for a recount. But we'll see how things unfold. I mean, candidates certainly are entitled to also request a recount. I know there's still some close state legislative races and other local races that are still unfolding. So we'll see as how that process goes. In every election, we're always prepared, and local clerks are prepared for a few recounts.
We saw some misinformation yesterday before the polls were even closed. Would you want to take a second to address that for anyone who's maybe seen that misinformation over the response from your team?
Which one?
Well, I guess particularly from your opponent.
Which one? Sorry. Which different particular aspect of misinformation? Or the,
Yeah, I guess talking about people being registered after hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Michigan, if you're in line by 8 o'clock, if you're in line by 8 o'clock to vote, you have a right to vote. I mean, that's been the expectation and the procedure for decades, and because citizens have a right to vote, and as long as they are there by 8 p.m. they can. And under Michigan's Constitution, if you have a right to register and vote up till the closing of the polls. So anyone who showed up by 8 p.m. was able to register and vote, or anyone who showed up by 8 p.m. was able to vote. And that was our way of ensuring that the constitutional promise of one person, one vote, and the protections in our state and federal laws are followed.
And additionally, kind of in that vein, do you have any clarity on why, particularly MSU with U of M,
yeah,
there was really long lines there? What happened there?
Yeah, what happened there, and we saw this happen in some cases in 2020 as well, there's limited access to the qualified voter file for security reasons, and there's actually a lot of secure protocols that are followed when someone registers and votes on the same day to ensure, once registered, that they haven't registered elsewhere, they haven't voted elsewhere. So it takes time for those security checks to go through, and there's only a limited number of people who have access to the qualified voter file to actually register someone directly on the spot and then give them a ballot. So all of that is a lot more of a detailed process than simply just showing up and voting, and that's why it will always take more time if you choose to register and vote on election day itself. And it's also a problem we can't solve simply by sending more people, because there's a limited number of people who actually have been given access to the qualified voter file, again, for security reasons. So all those factors considered, we worked with the local clerks in Ann Arbor and with East Lansing throughout the day, as the county clerks there did as well, to provide whatever resources and support they needed to continue moving the lines quickly. And moving forward, we'll certainly sit down with them to examine what processes we can help ameliorate or facilitate it to improve efficiencies in the future.
And moving forward, now that Prop 2 is looking to pass, do we have any idea exactly what kind of an impact these changes will make if we have a similar turnout when it's in person and
yeah, we'll see. I mean, now if the proposal passes and if we have 9 days of early voting, that does also require more preparation in advance of our next round of elections next year to ensure that our clerks are prepared for that, and we'll see how voter behavior shifts. And I think the bottom line is really two things. One, voters have options, and now a new option with early voting on how they choose to vote in a particular election. Our responsibility is to make sure whatever option they choose, that it's easy, secure, and efficient for them and accessible to them. And so that's what we'll be focused on doing, making sure for every voter all options are easily accessible, equally so. And then we'll see probably different patterns emerge over the course of a few election cycles, but it will take a few election cycles to really get a sense of the pattern and how voters choose to vote in a particular cycle.
And then I had a clarifying question about Prop 2. Are we going to get like the 9 days of early voting for like any special elections and the May election, like any of the locals that aren't just the major ones?
Well, our office is now, if it does pass, our office in the Bureau of Election will look through all those provisions and develop a plan to implement them, but certainly it appears to be that that's the case. But stay tuned, because we've got more work to do to ensure, just as we did with the implementation of new proposals in 2018, that those proposals, if they are ultimately enacted, which it looks like they are, will be ready to implement. And I look forward to working with the legislature to ensure we're doing it in a robust, data-driven way. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Big day after the election.